cranked it up to 2 because it was 1.75.
Ooh, get covered, young buck.
Everything else the same.
What's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you the differences between wrist aim and arm aim, and any good aimer is going to tell you that you use both of them in tandem regardless of the sensitivity that you play on. First thing I want to say is you got to know your sensitivity. You got to be really comfortable with it, and you have to know how far you have to track on your mouse pad, how much space you have. There's a thing in aiming called your comfort zone within your mouse pad, and mine is usually to a little more to the left of my mouse pad, or if you see in this, to the right on screen, but a little more to the left, and I am this is like right in here is my comfort zone when I'm aiming. My elbow sits on my desk, so I have my whole arm on my desk here, and I use my wrist with anything in front of me. So if I have to flick to anything in front of me, this is all wrist movement. I'm barely using my arm. If I have to make a longer flick on the edges of my screen, I usually use my arm to flick over to it, and then I adjust from there. Now, this all depends on the sensitivity that you are comfortable with. There is not one sensitivity that fits all. I personally am in the 40 to 50 centimeter range around there. In Call of Duty, I'm around a 43 centimeter per 360. In Battlefield, I'm about a 40 centimeter, 40.3 centimeter 360. So we got that out of the way. Wrist for anything in front of you. If you're shooting anything in front of you, is going to be your wrist. Okay, that's all wrist movement right there, and going back and forth, that's all wrist movement. And that looks really fast, but let me break it down for you. When I flick, I'm doing a hard, rigid flick, but you guys seen I just adjusted. It was all one smooth motion within the wrist. I adjusted. It was really choppy there. But if I flick to my right, which I'm really, really good at, and I'm really working on flicking to my left really well, if I flick to my right, it's one smooth movement. And if you guys slow the video down, you will see that I over flick and I brought it back really slow. And when I go to my left, I go to the left and I under flicked, but I brought it over. And this is happening really fast. And also, if I'm slightly off, like I flick here, I'm slightly off, I kind of use keyboard aim also to improve that flick and kind of make it look more fluid, right? Because to be honest, in FPS shooters, unless you're playing CS, you're not standing still. Anything like Overwatch, Call of Duty, even Battlefield to a certain extent, you're not staying still. You're constantly moving. Even in Battlefield, kind of bursting, and then you're kind of moving, resetting, right? So there's that. The next thing, I talked a little bit about it in my other video, the comfort zone within your mouse. You are always, or me, my comfort zone is about right here on my mouse. I never tend to leave that area, but I can get used to, I have gotten used to, like, if I flick, like say like this person's on my screen, like slightly off my screen, I have to use my arm to flick over and then readjust with my my wrist, right? So something that's slightly off my screen, say I'm fighting someone over here and I flick, that was arm / wrist movement too. So going back, circling back, you're flicking to using your wrist to flick to enemies that are already on your screen and tracking enemies that are already on your screen. But if I have to track somebody, if I have to flick and then track somebody, I'm using my arm. You really have to get used to using both muscles at the same time, and it's going to feel really weird, and it's going to be really weird because you're thinking about it. You're consciously thinking, okay, I'm using my wrist for things in front of me, and I'm using my arm for things off of my screen or tracking. And then eventually you're not going to think about it and you're going to do it. And then sometimes you're going to do motions where you're using your arm to flick and then wrist to micro readjust even in front of your screen. That's a little more, I would say, advanced. I don't always use my wrist when I'm, you know, shooting somebody on my screen, because I know with my arm I could flick. That was arm movement. That first flick, that's my arm. I'm using my arm a little bit, and then I use my wrist to micro readjust for the tiny movements. And another thing I've been getting asked, how do I make it look like my sensitivity is so high? My sensitivity is really low, and as you guys can see, I'm going to start from the edge of this mouse pad on over. This is my 360 pretty much is my whole mouse pad, and then even more, my ADS, my 180 is my whole, almost my whole mouse pad, right? Like that's my 180. It's slowed down a lot. So you just got to be comfortable with it. And most of the time when like I'm fighting enemies, I'm not always completely on target. So I kind of adjust. I can aim with my mouse pad up over here, right? I'm comfortable aiming wherever I have to be at on my mouse pad. How do I make my sensitivity look so fast? I'm constantly resetting my mouse. This is another comment that I got asked, and pretty much all I'm doing is I'm swiping, resetting, swiping, resetting constantly. If there's little adjustments I have to do, I'm doing something like this, right? I'm looking around. I'm lifting up, swiping. So it looks a little rigid, but eventually, once you get really good at it, you'll kind of know how far you have to swipe in a general area to land on your target. Like if I wanted to do this swipe, I overflicked, but I use my wrist to bring it back real fast. So some people aim like that. I personally don't. If I see a target on my screen, I don't swipe anymore. I'm down, I'm shooting, and I'm gently controlling my mouse, right? And then if I have to flick to somebody behind me, I know pretty much that from right here, a full swipe is going to get me close to that vicinity, and then I micro readjust from there. So if I have to do a 180 and then I bring my mouse back to the middle of my mouse pad, and then I'm automatically shooting. Get used to this. I'm going to have a video about my next video is going to be about the most important thing to aiming, and that is your ADS sensitivity and getting comfortable with it. I see too many people doing like one of these numbers, right? Which is okay to do, but you're trying to be as fast and as efficient as possible. It's better just to flick to enemies and be really fast with it while your ADS down sight. And I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. But pretty much that's it. That's in today's video. I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, remember to stay blessed and humble. I'm happy to be back doing this aiming content. Super fun. It's super fun. As always, guys, thank you so much for the love and support. I will catch you in another video. Peace.